Good afternoon, everybody. Today I am making a fan favorite. I'm making pineapple upside down cake. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a three-fourths cup of brown sugar, packed brown sugar, and a stick of butter. This is going to make your caramel sauce, and you're going to need a can of pineapple. I like using the crushed pineapple. It's just my favorite. You can use whatever. You drain this. You make sure it's drained real well, and you put aside the juice because you're going to use the juice in the cake mix. In the cake mix, you're going to need 2 cups of flour. You're going to need a softened stick of butter. You're going to need 3 eggs. You're going to need a fourth of a cup brown sugar. You're going to need a half a cup of regular sugar. You're going to need a half of a cup of milk, and you're going to need a teaspoon of vanilla, and I usually put a little bit of almond extract in it. You're also going to need a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of the baking soda. So I'm going to get this started. Get my caramel sauce. It's going to go into a 9 by 13 pan. I'm going to get my pineapple juice drained, and I will show you the next step. Okay, so I got my butter started in here, and that's going to be a whole stick of butter. And like I said, this is going to be 3/4 cup of packed brown sugar. I've got the light brown sugar, but if you want it to be darker, you can use the dark brown. Just get it kind of added in here. I should have got my spoon for this. Okay. You're going to want to make sure this mixes. It's going to need to be mixed, and it's going to need to be completely, the sugar needs to be melted, so it turns into a caramel sauce. So I'm going to get this cooked down, and when it's ready to pour into the pan, I will show y'all what it looks like. Now you are going to need to spray the bottom of your pan here. This is a 9 by 13, and this is just to make sure it doesn't stick. You don't need a whole lot, just to lightly spray it. So I'm going to get this finished. I'll be right back. You are going to need to make sure that you keep stirring this so it doesn't burn on the bottom. You're going to have this on a medium heat too. And you don't want to just make sure the sugar melted, but you're going to want to make sure it is well incorporated and that the butter is still not separated. Okay, it's been about 7 minutes, and you can see that the texture is all together. I've also tasted it to make sure there was no grit left, and it tastes more like caramel now than it does like brown sugar. So I'm going to just turn this off, and we're going to just pour this into the bottom of our pan. And you're going to have to spread this out a little bit, but you just want to layer on the bottom. I mean, it's not going to be. Ooh, you do want to make sure that you do cover the bottom though. Okay. I'm going to set this to the side, and we're going to mix up the cake. All right. Okay, real quick before I start on my cake mix, you can see that I did drain. I use the crushed pineapple. I just think that that's better, and you just kind of like scatter it around. If you have the circles, you know, it's going to be easier to lay that out. But again, I don't know. I've always liked the crushed. It just seems to make the cake have more of a pineapple-y taste. So I'm going to get this all scattered on here and laid out, and then I'm going to start the cake mix. I'll be back. Okay, so once I start to get to mixing, I'll have everything ready. This in here, you're going to cream your butter and your sugars together, and then you've got your flour. You've got your 2 cups of flour, all-purpose, and you're going to put, I said 1 teaspoon, but you're actually going to put 2 teaspoons of soda in here. And then you're going to put about 1/4 or 1/2 a teaspoon of salt in here, okay? All right, so we're going to mix this. Then we're going to add our eggs, and then we're going to add our flour, and then we'll add our juices, okay? So I'm going to get this mixed up. And you do need to make sure that this is really mixed. It's nice and creamy. So I'm going to get this mixed up, and I'll show you the texture before I start adding in my eggs. Okay, so now that I've got that cream together, I'm going to go ahead and add my eggs in. And you can add these 1 egg at a time and beat it. I'm just, for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and just add my eggs real quick. And then we will go on to the next thing. So you get your eggs in there, and again, you're gonna need to make sure that it's nice and creamy, that it's mixed up well and it's nice and creamy before you start adding any of your dry ingredients in. So again, I'm gonna get this mixed up real quick, and then we will go on to the next step. Okay, so this is nice and creamy now, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my flour, baking soda, and salt in here, and we're gonna get this mixed up. Once we get this mixed up, we're gonna add in our milk and pineapple juice. Now, because I had more than half a cup of pineapple juice left over when I drained my pineapple, I went ahead and I'm using almost a cup of pineapple, and I cut my milk down to 1/4 of a cup, just because I like my cake, I like the pineapple upside down cake, the cake part to actually taste more pineapple than just vanilla cake. So, all right, as you can see, it's gotten thick, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add in my milk. Get that mixed up. And then we're gonna pour in our pineapple. Okay, I'm gonna pause it right here so I can get this mixed up, and then the last step, I'm gonna put my vanilla and a little bit of almond extract. Again, and now that it's creamy, I'm gonna add in a teaspoon, and I usually go a little over a cap. That's about a teaspoon. And then I just put a few drops of almond extract. Almond is completely up to you. I just like the way that it smells, and it does add a little bit of extra, like it came from a bakery kind of thing. Even though I'm making all this homemade. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mix this up until it's nice and smooth, and then we're gonna spread it out over the pineapple and caramel, and then it's gonna go in the oven at 350 for 30 minutes. Okay, so the cake mix is all mixed up, and you can see it's a nice thick texture. It's not real super runny or real thin, because you are going to need to kind of like make a coating. Just kind of start out so you don't mess with the pineapple too much. Try to get it a layer down on the bottom before you have to spread. That way you don't disturb the pineapple or the caramel. It stays in place, which that caramel has already honestly started to harden. So that is perfect. So you know, it's not like when you do, if you just, I mean, you can just do the brown sugar and the butter on the bottom before you put in your pineapple. You could do it that way, of course. I just like making the caramel because it just seems to hold together better. Now, of course, since doing it that way, we are going to have to let it, once it comes out of the oven, it's going to have to cool for about 30 minutes or so before we can flip it, just to be on the safe side, so that the caramel don't just, it has time to seep into the cake. So anyway, I'm going to get this finished spreading out, and you're going to spread this gently. You don't want to disturb the pineapple. If you have pineapple slices, this of course makes it easier, because you have the pineapple slices, not the tidbits. But again, I like the crushed, so that's just my preference. So okay, well, we got this done. I'm going to get this in the oven again, 350 degrees for 30 minutes, or until it pulls away from the side, toothpick test or the bounce test. So when it's ready, I will pull it out and show y'all how it looks. Okay, so this took 28 minutes for it to be completely cooked. As you can see, it pulled away from the edges, and it also bounces back when you press it. Okay, so I'm gonna let this cool. I'm gonna go put it over there underneath my fan so it'll cool in about 30 minutes. And then when it's time to flip, I'll bring it back over here. We'll flip it, and I will cut it, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, moment of truth time. Now, I let this cool for about 35 minutes. It could cool an hour or more. I'm not, sometimes it sticks. To make a plain pan, just do this, and then you're going to take it and you're going to flip it. All right, so some of it hopefully will not stick to this container. Okay, so some of the caramel did, but there you go. So you have your nice, pretty pineapple upside down cake. And if you do have stuff that's left over on the sides, you can just put it back on there. That's usually what I do. I like it warm, that's why I went ahead and pulled it out, but you can let it cool for the whole hour, and then it should come out easier. With fruit, whatever's left you don't eat, put it in the freezer. I mean the refrigerator. You don't want this to sit out. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, enjoy, y'all. I know I ended it, but real quick, this is what it looks like cut. And it tastes yummy.